Have you ever asked yourself what you would do if God asked for what you love the most? What if the same voice that once promised you life now asked for death? How far would you go for faith? How far does your obedience reach when everything inside you wants to say no? This is not just an ancient story. It's a confrontation with the deepest part of the human soul, surrender. And it was in this abyss between promise and sacrifice that Abraham heard the voice that made him tremble within. After years of waiting for the promised son, now God called him again, this time for something unthinkable. The command was clear, with no room for negotiation. Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. There were no explanations, no dialogue. Only the weight of a command that seemed to contradict everything God had once promised. But Abraham did not argue. He did not beg. He did not hesitate. At sunrise he got up, chopped wood, gathered 2 servants and called Isaac. And so began a 3-day journey to the land of Moriah. 3 days in which each step felt heavier than the last, as if time itself were trying to delay the inevitable. During the journey, the silence between father and son was nearly as heavy as the wood resting on Abraham's shoulders. Within him, a storm raged, faith wrestling with affection, obedience struggling against love. Isaac walked beside his father with the innocent eyes of one who trusted fully. At one moment, he broke the silence. "My father, here is the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the sacrifice?" Abraham looked into his son's eyes and answered with words that would echo through the centuries. "God himself will provide the lamb, my son." Those words were more than hope. They were the final thread of trust in the character of God. On the 3rd day, the mountain rose in the distance, solemn, silent, waiting for divine decree to unfold. Abraham asked the servants to stay behind. He said he and the boy would go and worship, and then return. He still hoped, still believed. Even without understanding how, he trusted that God could raise the dead if necessary. Atop the mountain, an altar was built stone by stone, as if each one represented a personal surrender. The wood was placed, the fire prepared. The moment drew near. With trembling hands, Abraham bound Isaac. The boy, obedient, did not resist. The very son of the promise was laid on the altar, with burning wood beneath him and the heavens watching above. Abraham raised the knife. His arm was steady, but his soul shattered. Time stood still. Heaven held its breath. The universe watched. But before the blade could fall, a voice broke the silence. "Abraham! Abraham!" And he answered, "Here I am." Then came the words of relief and confirmation. "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham dropped to his knees. Tears came. The knife fell. Life was restored. And when he lifted his eyes, he saw a ram caught by its horns in the thicket. The sacrifice had been provided. The altar of death became a place of revelation. Abraham took the ram and offered it in place of Isaac. And there on that mountain he named the place Jehovah Jireh. The Lord will provide. But that story, as powerful as it was, did not end there. It was a shadow, a foreshadowing, a sacred announcement of what was yet to come. Because centuries later, another son would climb another hill. He too would carry the wood. He too would obey the Father. But that day, there would be no ram in the thicket, no voice to stop the sacrifice, because God's own Son would be the lamb. He would be laid upon the altar of the cross, and there, between heaven and earth, he would pour out his blood for all humanity. Isaac came down from the mountain because Jesus would climb his. The substitute ram in Moriah pointed to the perfect Lamb of Calvary. Abraham's altar whispered an eternal truth. God did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all. Romans 8:32. Today, God may not ask you to give up your son, but he still asks for everything. He asks for what you love the most, for what you fear losing, for what you've been hiding deep within the altar of your heart. Because true faith is not just believing, it's surrendering, climbing the mountain, lighting the fire, loosening your grip, even when you don't understand, even when it hurts. And maybe it's right there that God meets you. Many want to live the promise, but avoid the path of obedience. Many cry out for provision, but run from the altar where everything must be laid down. Yet it is there, right there, in the place where it feels like everything is being taken away, that God reveals He was always the one you needed to find. Because on the mountain of sacrifice, Abraham found more than a ram. He found a God who sees, a God who speaks, and above all, a God who provides. And you? What are you still clinging to, afraid to lose? Maybe today God is calling you to climb the mountain, not to destroy you, but to transform you. And when all you have left is faith, you will discover that God is all you'll ever need. Because this story isn't just about Abraham. It's about you. It's about all of us, standing at the foot of our own Moriah. We may not carry wood on our backs, but we carry burdens. Burdens of dreams, of people, of plans, things we've waited for, fought for, wept over. And then, one day, God whispers, "Would you give that back to me?" Not because He wants to destroy it, but because He wants to make sure your heart still belongs to Him. Because the greatest danger of the blessing is when we love the gift more than the giver. That's why He brings us back to the altar, not to punish us, but to realign us.